Stampers, this is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Today's project, we're going to be working with a tea light box. That's this little thing right here. It's super adorable. It holds 4 tea lights and it's actually pretty easy to make. And so we're going to work on this one today. Again, welcome and thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here. I hope you like this little box. I'm working on some craft fair items because I have a craft fair I'm going to be doing coming up, and I just thought it would be fun to share this with you. So in order to do this little box, we're going to start out with some designer series paper. And we can use any designer's paper that you wish. I was actually playing around with some retired designer series paper for my craft fair items. This is a great way to use up some of that designer series paper that we have laying around. And I wanted to show you how this one actually it opens. You know, a lot of them, they're kind of almost glued together and, you know, to shut. And this one isn't. It will open and close so they can access them very easily. I've been cutting the holes here by hand, and as I was prepping for this video, I thought, you know, I bet that's the size of one of our stitched rectangle frames, and sure enough it is. So rather than show you how I did this manually on the trimmer, I thought I would let you know that our stitched rectangle dies are the perfect size for this kind of thing. When I did the other ones, I used a little template, I drew on the back, and I stuck the blade down in and did little cuts on my trimmer. And it's not hard to do, but the stitched framelit dies so much easier. So hopefully you saw my review on the new Stampin' Up trimmer. This is available 2 demos now. It will be available to customers later. We don't have a date quite yet, but it is fantastic. The blades are much larger than the other ones, and they also don't have the gap here. And I don't know if you can see, but there's actually little lines in there, so we're not losing that 6 1/8 mark. We can actually hit it in there. And if you're cutting something and you need it to be 6 by 6, flushing up to this little lip over here makes it exactly 6 inches. We also have the little part in the middle. It's this much improved from our other one. So we're going to start out with some designer series paper, as I said. I'm going to bring in a piece of our 12 by 12. This is the brightly gleaming bundle. Also, if you have trouble lifting up this thing, I want to point out that there is a little bump right there, and there's a hole right here. Eek. So this bump goes into this hole as it clicks into place, and that's what locks it. So if you want to unlock it, if you lift up just a teeny bit and pull out, then there's no resistance to it whatsoever. So just a little tip for you there. We're going to start out with the designer series paper. Like I said, we're going to go 6 1/8 by 9 1/4. And I love that this has metric and imperial measurements on it, because there's a lot of demos out there doing fun little things in metric measurements, and this actually makes it very easy for me to convert their metric measurements down to my inches. So very fun. We're going to come in with the scoreboard, and we're going to score this. Now you could do it on the trimmer as well, but I prefer to use my scoring board only because I find it to be much more accurate for me. I find that my fingers slip a little bit, and I didn't want to mess that up. So we're going to take this 6 1/8 by 9 1/4 piece of designer series paper, and on the long side here we're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, and then again at 1 1/2. And then I'm going to spin this and do 3/4 of an inch and 1 1/2. You might see my new little bracelet here. I wanted to wear it so I could show you guys. This is something that will be available in November to our customers. It comes with the new Christmas Time is Here suite. So super cute. On the short side, we're going to score this at 3/4, 1.5, 3 1/4, 4, and 5 3/4. And so now you can see we've got that all scored up. Now there's certain pieces we're going to remove. And so for that, I'm going to kind of look at my score lines. I'm going to burnish them so that they are more defined. It'll make it a little bit easier for the box to go together and a little more easy to find the cut lines we're going to be making as we cut off some of the tabs on the end. So just use your bone folder and burnish all the edges. And this is easiest to do when it's all one piece before you cut off the tabs, because all of the pieces are straight. You know, there's no little tabs that need to be folded separately. It's all one long piece. So now, like I said, we're going to start removing some things. This is going to be the top of our box. And so this we know we want to have just the top. So I'm going to remove these 2 little ones and these 2 big ones side by side. So I'm just going to cut along those score lines. Like I said, these 2 little ones and these 2 bigger ones, they're just coming off. Okay, so this will be the other side. So we know we want these to come off, just the 2 square ones on the ends. Okay, this is going to fold in and it's going to cover up a little tab. So we know that this piece is going to come off. And this piece is going to come off. Are you following me so far? So we're going to do the same thing on both sides. And then, like I said, we're going to turn these into tabs. And so I'm just going to slice up this way. Okay, so this is going to be the sides that are going to go in, and this is going to be the top. And it's got a little extra piece because that's going to fold over and cover up our tabs so that it all looks nice and clean and neat on the inside. Like I said, this is the top of our box, and so this is where I want to put that little window. So this is where the stitched framelit die that I just had will be great for cutting that out right there. And so I'm going to put this onto my die cutting machine, and I'm going to cut this out. It's much easier to do before we put the box together. There's our little window, and then we can use this now that it's got that stitched edge to it. This will be another piece we can set aside and use on another card. Now this window is empty now, and I don't want it to be empty. I want to be able to see through it. So I've been using some like clear acetate, and actually this piece here, what it is when we get our new stamp sets, when they're photopolymer, they come with acetate on 2 sides. And I actually take the printed side of the acetate and adhere it to my box in here, in between the outside and the inside, so that I can just set my stamps directly onto the case and know where they all go. So that extra piece is what I used for here. So this is just a piece of the acetate. Like I said, this was what was on top of the set of stamps. And it's just about the right size for going across that, but I want it to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to bring my trimmer back in. And I'm going to cut this down to 1.5 inches. And now you could either glue this in with liquid glue or you can use tear and tape. Now the tear and tape's going to be fine on the sides because that gives you plenty of room, but you'll notice there's only about 1/8 of an inch, or you know, it's a little more, almost 1/4 of an inch, but not quite. And so you have to be kind of careful when you're placing the tear and tape to make sure that it's just going in that section. So I guess this one's going to fit for me. Okay, now this one's going to be too thin. Now one of the things I can do is I can take this piece of tear and tape and I can use my scissors and I can cut down the middle. I know it's kind of a little pain, but it's going to make it much simpler than having it curl up onto the edge. You can also buy this 1/8 inch tape, but since I don't use it very often, it's just as easy for me to cut down the 1/4 inch, since I have lots of that on hand. So now I'm just pulling off the wax backing to expose the tape. And then I'm going to place this little piece of acetate into that spot. Okay, now I'm finding that there's a little bit of extra sticky here, and I don't want it to be sticky. So what I'm going to do is I'm eventually going to find my embossing buddy, and then I'm going to tap over this with the embossing buddy to take the sticky off, because there's just enough little powder in that it'll take the sticky off of this excess tape. Trust me, you want to take your embossing buddy and cover up that extra sticky. Now we're ready to start assembling our box. And like I said, we're going to start with these little tabs. So I want to bend this part out of the way so that I can bring these in. And I'm going to use liquid glue. Now if you wanted to, you can, and I probably would even recommend coming in and wedging the sides of those. I know you've seen me do that on other boxes. And then we're going to make sure that they're good and square. The foundation of any box and making it successful is to make sure that your corners are good and square. Now what I meant by wedging is that you would come in and cut just a little bit of an angle here and a little bit of an angle here, and that'll make the tabs go in a little easier. So the liquid glue gives me my wiggle room. You hear me say that all the time. It allows me to make sure that I've got it exactly where I want it and it still moves, and then it'll grab hold and dry. Now like I said, we have these extra pieces. This is what's going to pretty it up and cover those tabs. And there we have it. Our box is made. Actually, probably could have left the sides on here. I think I did on this other one. Yeah, I had left the sides on this one. Now, they don't have to be there. You can leave them or not leave them, because I found them kind of, I don't know, cumbersome, but it's a little extra work to get those in there. So when I put the diagram up on my blog, I will have the sides on it. I used liquid glue because it allows me wiggle room. That once I put the glue on there, if it was tear and tape, it would instantly connect and I wouldn't be able to make sure that my corners were square. Now, if you're very confident in your experience with boxes, it's probably a great idea. Because I was trying to show you how to make one and maybe you're not experienced, the wiggle room is a definite plus. So once you have that all together, then all you do is you just place your tea lights in it. And then I had wrapped this one with some of our Merry Christmas ribbon. I love this because it's got the copper in it that our designer paper series also has. And so I cut 22 inches and then I, wrapped it around And I wanted to make it to where the same ends, you know, they were the same length, but the bow off to the side a little. And so I don't know if you saw how I did that. I just kind of pinched it so I've got the ends lined up and then twisted it until I had it over there. Then I'm just going to give it a knot. Now this is where you would play with it to make sure that your words are on top. If you're going to have the ribbon twisted at all, you want it twisted inside the knot so that they come out with the words on the outside. And that's all there is to it. There's a cute little box. Holds 4 tea lights. I also want to let you know the ends tend to fray a little bit, and so what I did is I just took the, you know, a lighter, and I just took the end and just lightly put a little bit of fire along the edge just to melt it enough that it stopped the fraying, because there is plastic kind of inside the ribbon or some kind of synthetic that actually melts down and stops that from fraying. You want to be careful. You don't want to set it on fire in the rest of your craft room, but it will stop fraying on the end of your ribbons. So thank you for watching. I hope you found today's tutorial helpful. Again, we kept it nice and short. It was only 20 minutes and we have a beautiful project to show for it. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know. Again, I want to remind you that we do have the hostess code going on this month. So if you were to place a $30 order, you would get the Customer Appreciation PDF, which is 6 tutorials for 6 different cards, full color with pictures, and there are 2 fancy fold cards in that bundle. So again, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next Monday at 2:30 for our next Facebook Live. Thanks. Bye.